Coming up on this week's episode of the Rip City Roundtable podcast, we get to dive in to a little G League action. We get Erik Peterson, host of, get ready for it, Kenny's G League podcast, on the episode today. I was pumped for this. We cover all the things, right? Trailblazers, the season, where it's going, what's the offseason going to look like, who's performed, who hasn't performed, how long should Chauncey Billups be the coach, all the hot topics for the Trailblazers content. But we don't get a ton of remix. We had Connor Burgeon on last week. Connor's a writer for the Blazers Edge. We mainly talked about his piece about Hand Fruit Nation, which is the fan base for the remix. So if you listen to last week's episode, you got a little primer for this week, but we decided to go all in deep with somebody that's covering the team, has a podcast that talks about the team. And so Erik, probably one of the most knowledgeable people we could have on the show to give us insights into the remix, what it's like to go to games. He has a great podcast, has interviewed some amazing people that work for the team, coaches, front office, and things like that. So if you've been wondering what the heck are the remix about, if you haven't gone to a game yet, well, too bad, their season's over, but you will get to go to one next season. They play at the Child Center. So, if you're living in the area, just like you go to Moda, go to Child Center, go catch a game. I think because the Blazers are positioned in a way where we're young, a lot of rookies on the team, a lot of two-way contracts, a lot of players you see at these G League teams, you're going to see for the main team, and then vice versa. So, bring your kids, you get an up close and personal experience into NBA caliber players. And I think that is one of the most unique parts in Portland. This is the first season that we've had a remix affiliate in town. And so, Portland, we love our teams, and I think the support for the remix is going to be tremendous. I'm not worried about it. And so it's great to have Erik on the show to tell us about his experiences and where he got started and why he started the podcast and different things like that. So gear up, giddy up. I know the season's over. We're anxiously waiting for ping pong balls to drop, figure out what draft order the Blazers will be in. But until then, let's listen to Erik. Enjoy the episode. Enjoy the interview. It's a good one. I enjoyed this. I enjoyed getting to know him a little bit better and to get to learn more about the remix. So saddle up. Enjoy the episode. We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be right back with Erik Peterson, host of Kenny's G League podcast. All right, we're back from break, and we are here with Erik Peterson, host of, and this is the best podcast name I think I've ever heard in my life, Erik, Kenny G's League, the podcast.
That's right.
Incredible. Erik, before we dive into your story, I want to know how the name, I had Connor Burgeon on the show last week. He did a featured piece on Hand Fruit Nation. And so our Rip City Roundtable podcast listeners are a little familiar with the remix and Hand Fruit Nation because of that article and Connor talking to us. But how did the name Kenny G's League come into fruition here for the show?
Well, I was looking for a name, just kind of going through any pun I could think of that had to do with either the G League or the D League. I thought about calling it Real G Leagues Move in Silence Like Lasagna, but that was just too long. I couldn't do it.
Oh my gosh.
And then Kenny's G League just was the next idea as I was rolling through things that kind of had, the G as an initial or something.
Yeah.
My middle name is Kenneth, so you got a little bit of a tie in there. Not that anyone would ever know that, and it makes no difference to anyone else, but I find it a little bit amusing.
I love it.
And so that's where we landed.
Wow, that is incredible. I'll tell you my quick tie-in. I've never said this on the podcast, but in college, or I was in grad school, I interned for the Maine Red Claws, now known as I think the Maine Celtics or something.
Yeah.
It went through a name change, but it was the D League back then. It wasn't the G League. And it was an experience. I'll definitely say that. I got to say I lived in both Portlands, which I thought was kind of cool. But yeah, some fond memories and some not so fond. But I got to be Crusher, who's the lobster mascot. That was the only way I got
That's
paid was
cool.
was to be Crusher the mascot. So anyway, my quick G League aside story. But
That's awesome.
well, Eric, let's dive in and learn a little bit more about you. Tell us about your life and how you became a Blazers fan.
Yeah, well, I'm living in the Portland suburbs, and I've been a Blazer fan because of that pretty much as long as I can remember. I think I really started to like pay attention to the Blazers probably just like the post 2001 meltdown, I think
Yes.
that's
Yes.
kind of like my earliest Blazers memories,
Yep.
and then kind of that, I don't know, 2 seasons or so after that where they were like still in the mix a little bit, and stuff. And then uh really started just becoming obsessed with the team in the following years where they just stunk for a little while.
Yeah.
Uh, and like I remember one season in particular is probably 2006 or whatever when they were just like really, really exceptionally bad.
Yep.
2005, whenever it was.
Yeah.
Uh, and so would have been probably like in 2005, 12 when the season was ending,
Okay.
13 maybe. And I looked at the standings and I was like, we're that bad? Well, I was just having so much fun watching the team,
Yeah.
and like choosing uh Travis Outlaw to like be obsessed with and think that he was going to be the next big thing, or
Yep.
Quintel Woods or whoever. And so I was just obsessed with the team.
Yeah.
And then you get to the end of the season and Kobe Bryant hits a game winner on the 82nd game.
Mm.
Uh, and I'm devastated. And I looked down, I was like, oh, I didn't realize we were as bad as that.
Yeah.
But it
Yeah.
didn't matter. I was obsessed with the team, and that's kind of just how it's gone since then for the most part.
Oh my gosh, I love it. I feel like I'm you're making me relive my childhood too because I would talk myself into like a backcourt of Nick Van Exel and Damon
That's right.
Stoudemire what could be a thing,
Yep.
and can Darius Miles really turn into a superstar? Like
Yeah.
these
That
are
was
just
one for me. For
yeah.
whatever reason that year, I think I had bought NBA Live 2005 because it was the one with the All-Star game, so you could do the dunk contest.
Okay.
Uh, and I had started collecting basketball cards at that point, and I must have had a couple Darius Miles basketball cards
Yeah.
that I had just randomly gotten. I was like, oh, this guy is cool.
Yes.
This guy's cool.
Yes.
And then he got traded to the Blazers at like the trade deadline or whatever that season. And I was like, it's all coming together. Everything's coming up Millhouse. And then, of course that didn't end up turning into anything, but
No,
it
not
was
at
it
all.
was a fun coincidence at the time.
Wow, no kidding. I remember like Sebastian Telfair, and there was this media piece he did or something in New York, and he was like jumping on this trampoline
Yeah.
near a water or something. And I was like,
Yep.
a Blazer player, we drafted that guy, and he was like
Yeah.
featured on this thing, like he lead us to championships, and it was like
Hmm.
not even
They made
close.
a little documentary about him.
Yeah, the documentary.
My mom, uh, out of the goodness of her heart, took me to the Hollywood Theater to watch the Sebastian Telfair documentary.
Oh,
When I was in middle school or whatever that would have been. Uh,
jeez.
and you know,
I
that
love
guy ended up being in the NBA for quite a while, but was never the point guard of the future that we needed.
No, yeah, definitely not that we needed. Yeah. Well, very cool. Okay. All right. So fast forward me. So now we're getting to the remix. So
Hmm.
the Blazers have always like we've been able to send players to a G League affiliate. It's not that we haven't
Yeah.
had access to one. But this season was the first time like the Blazers like control the team or have direct like what's the difference if you know
Yep.
what's the difference between this season having the remix and like past seasons?
Yeah. So there's several like really big obvious advantages that I didn't really think about until they got a G League team. Um so one is I had one of the Remix's assistant coaches on the podcast on an episode that just came out today, and he talks a little bit about this. Um he was formerly a head coach for the Texas Legends G League team,
Okay.
and back, only a few years ago, the Blazers had sent Moses Brown and Greg Brown, I think Greg Brown, to the Texas Legends for, a few days or weeks at a time or whatever, because we didn't have a G League team directly affiliated to the Blazers. And so, when they do that, they want that player to get minutes and get reps and all that stuff. But, the Legends aren't affiliated with the Blazers,
Yeah.
but they'll take on a player. And so, uh, you know, their head coach at the time, George Gallinopoulos, they would play a game, practices, whatever, and he would, shoot an email or a text or whatever to one of the Blazers assistant coaches. And so you still have, a level of like communication, and you're learning about what the players are doing and what they're improving on. But already, even just one step apart, there's that like game of telephone of, oh, okay, this player did this. I'm hearing from this assistant coach, but they might not have, you know, a similar offensive set to what the Blazers might run or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's like, you're having to go through an extra layer of communication, and they might not even be trying to feature that player like your team might. Uh, and then for the Blazers, even compared to some other teams that have G League affiliates, um, they're just located right in the same town. They use the same practice facility. So even other NBA teams, their G League affiliate might be hours away or a state away, and the
Mm.
Blazers, they share the same practice facility. So like coaches are often, communicating directly, and players get to know each other. A number of the players I've just kind of watched this year. Oh, this guy on the Blazers seems to be buds with this guy on the remix, even though they,
Yeah.
might not have even shared playing time or whatever.
Sure.
So
Sure.
there's kind of like some really cool little crossovers that you see when you're in the same town.
That is really cool because I didn't even think of it like that, where some of these teams do have affiliates that are probably in the same state, but that doesn't mean they're in the same city, or,
Yeah.
it's still a drive. And to be at the same
Hmm.
practice facility
Yeah.
has to bring some cohesiveness that other teams just don't get when they're bringing players up and down and all that kind of stuff. I have to feel like that's an advantage for the Blazers and for the remix.
Yeah, I would think so. I'll kind of be excited next season to hopefully learn a little bit more about that. But from, the couple coaches that I got the chance to talk to, it sounded like it was a pretty seamless integration.
Very cool. Well, so talk to us about I personally, so it I've been to G League games. Again, it was a long time ago. This was like 10 years ago. So I'm very much aging myself. But talk to me about what remix games are like. What can people expect when they go? Are obviously everyone understands this is like kind of minor leagues or whatever you want to call it of like
Hmm.
the NBA. So you're getting a lot of talent out there that may never see the floor of an NBA game or might get a 10-day contract or whatever. But give me your thought on like what fans can expect and maybe the biggest differences between a professional game or an NBA game and a G League game.
Yeah. Well, I think in Portland, uh, most of the Blazers fans that I know are like the real sicko type.
Yeah.
And like if you're, especially in these rebuilding seasons, if you're paying attention to the Blazers, whether you're watching like every game or, a game every few games or whatever, you're dedicated to watching the team. You could easily tune it out. So like if you're already invested in the Blazers and you want to uh kind of expand your basketball horizons or whatever, I think it's like super super fun and easy to hop into the G League a little bit. And the more you kind of do that, the more crossover that you find. I had no expectations going in. So when I went to the first game this season or whatever, there were players there that by the end of the season ended up on a two-way on the Blazers. And so it's really fun to kind of watch that progression from this guy that maybe was in college a couple years ago, and maybe someone that, watches college basketball would recognize the name a little bit. And then, 4 months later, they're playing 15 minutes a night on the Blazers. So there's that level where if you're kind of already a basketball nerd, you get to see this cool progression that you would miss otherwise. And then just from like a casual perspective, I think it's pretty fun to go to a game because it's a little more uh laid back than an NBA game, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like not 10,000 decibels the whole time, and you
Hmm.
can walk into the gym pretty easily, and you can park 2 minutes away, and you're
Yeah.
walking in and you're watching, professional basketball players that, like I said a second ago, for all you know, one of these guys could pop this season or next season or whatever, and you can kind of follow the
Yeah.
individuals a little bit more closely.
That's cool. I love all that. You're spot on. I think being able to like hear the game, you
Yeah,
with all the music,
totally.
yeah, the communicating on defense or a coach yelling out an assignment or even players talking to each other a little bit. It
Hmm.
it probably does. It just has a different feel that people aren't used to when you're watching a game on TV or something. So
Yeah, absolutely. There were multiple games this year where, um, like a Moses Brown, would come in, and he was just like screaming every time he dunked the ball. And the story that I'm telling myself is like, oh, they must be trying to get more aggression out of him because he's not usually that way.
okay,
But at the same time, it's a way smaller gym, and
yeah,
like a player screaming after a dunk is just going to carry super differently. I
yeah,
can't hear in the Moda Center a thing on the court.
yep.
But at the Child Center, it's relatively small, and it's just super cool to kind of like see these interactions. There was a player this season that got traded from the Remix to Toronto, and when he came into town, he was just like talking smack the whole game, you know. But I wouldn't have like if it was a bigger arena, I probably wouldn't have really registered that. So
Yeah.
you kind of like are zooming way in. That's really fun.
That's cool. I think it does offer like a different experience that other people don't get. What is like the how much is it to go to a game? Like how much are
So I
tickets?
think if you buy a single ticket, the cheapest one is like $12 or $15, something like that. I can't remember. Like
Okay.
all in, like no fees, thankfully.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah, that's
Uh
good.
and like you can get a season ticket for all the games for like $200.
Nice.
So it's
Okay.
like that's, you know, that's a pretty good deal if you're gonna go to 25 games for $200.
Yeah, not bad at all.
Yeah.
Who has there been a player on another team that has stuck out to you, either like one that you were thought, oh my goodness, this guy could pop off, or maybe is getting playing time
Uh-huh.
already for another team?
Yeah, well, definitely, I think the player that I saw this year that just made me go, oh man, this guy is someone needs to pick him up was Kenny Lofton Jr. When he came through town.
Oh yeah.
That game that he played, I was just like, can the Blazers pick this guy up? Because he's really good. And that's, I think, maybe one of the things too about the G League is like when a guy, uh, there aren't as many big men in the G League, seems like to
Hmm.
me.
Yeah.
And like when a guy like that comes through, it becomes to me pretty apparent like, oh man, this guy is built for the NBA. I
Hmm.
think like Mo Harkless had to defend Kenny Lofton Jr. and Mo Harkless, who's one of the more, like NBA body players that the Remix had at the time. It's
Yeah.
like Mo Harkless is gonna guard Kenny Lofton Jr.
Yeah.
because he has to play center on this team on whatever that
Jeez.
day was.
Yeah.
And Kenny Lofton Jr. was just dominating that game. I kind of want
Dominated.
to look up what he had in that
Yeah,
because
look
I,
up
I really
the
don't know, but
points. I forget that I forgot I saw that Mo Harkless joined the remix or had a contract with them. It's like
yeah, he was there for, I don't know, a couple months or something like that.
that's funny. I wonder if he was just like, I just want to get some get some run in with a team in Portland, or if he
I
was
think
what he
it
was doing.
sounds like, it was like join the G League, see if your number comes up to get called back up to the NBA.
Yeah.
And he obviously has not gotten called up to the NBA at this point.
And
And I think it
now.
was also an opportunity for him to ramp up his conditioning because he
Hmm.
had like an injury the season before. So it was kind of like doubling as maybe my number will get called up. And in the meantime, I'll,
Yeah.
get back into basketball shape.
That probably does make sense for like older veterans or older players that are maybe hoping one of these playoff teams gets an injury on like their 10th, 11th, 12th man
Yeah.
and like hey, they're here. They can just plug and play, be a good practice guy, and then who knows? Maybe there is an opportunity to win a ring or
Yep.
even get some potential real playing time if other injuries happen. So, oh, okay. Interesting. Did you find how many points Kenny Lofton
I'm
put up
trying to find it. That's
on
one of
Mo?
the frustrating things sometimes is that
Yeah.
it's difficult to find G League stats from time to time.
So they're not like a dedicated. I feel like there should be a dedicated, like ESPN, like kind of some stats or some place like or NBA.com. Do they not have?
There is, but sometimes I've had a hard time sometimes breaking it down game by game versus just
Oh, just like
the
looking.
combined stats on the season.
Yeah. Was
Let's
was Mo
see.
was Mo Harkless the like the best? I'm say the best. That's not the right way to say this. Like the most seasoned NBA player that played on the remix this season.
Oh, the most seasoned he he must have been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. I think he's the longest tenured NBA player they had this season.
Okay. Okay. I figure. I mean, I just see a name like that, and it's like I bet this guy.
Yeah.
So, Eric, transitioning to the main team here for a second, the NBA squad. What has been your thoughts on this season? Has this been a season? And I think we've repeated this on this show 5 million times, but this is going to be the season we most likely we're going to get. I think there's some expectation or hope that maybe Shaden would have played more, obviously, and seen more progression, that Scoot was going to maybe progress or be different than what he was, or all these things. What's been your take now that the season wrapped up? It's over as the
Hmm.
recording of this podcast. We have finished out our season. We're tied for the third pick in the draft, and we'll see who gets the extra percentage point between us and the Hornets. But what's been your take on this year?
Yeah, it's I'm kind of like of two minds on this season, because there were some legitimately fun games in this season that made me go, okay, maybe if you squint, there's kind of something here to build on.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was that game against Memphis in the play-in tournament game where Shaden had that block that
Yeah.
took it to overtime, I think. Or was in
Oh,
overtime.
yes, 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 yes. I know what
And
you're talking about.
there was obviously the game against Milwaukee and things like
Yeah.
this where you see like, okay, there's something here, you
Yes.
know. And so part of me wants to say, okay, maybe you could get away with having Scoot come off the bench for another season and just give yourself a year of Shaden Sharp and Anthony Simons, and Scoot can be okay coming off the bench for another season.
Yeah.
That's kind of part what I would like to see. But I think the more realistic side of me is probably, especially after the last 20 something games of the season,
Hmm.
where I felt a little more confident in Scoot. After the last 20 games, where I thought personally that Scoot looked pretty good, and at least I could see, okay, this, I have pretty little doubt. Not that I am a scout by any means or know a thing about that, but in my fan mind,
Yeah.
I'm going, okay, I see this guy as an NBA player now. The first 10 games, I did not. The
Yeah.
last 20 games, I feel like it's very unlikely he's anything less than a starting point guard,
Yeah.
and so after those last 20 games, especially with Aiton coming on, I'm going, okay, well, maybe it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if Anthony were to get traded, and we would probably be worse next season than, if everyone came back and they were to just say, let's just see what all these guys have playing 82 games together. But that would probably make more sense and would be the move to me to make, and just say, let's see if a season of Scoot at point guard after what we've seen the last half of the season,
Yeah.
and Shaden hopefully being healthy,
Yeah.
and DeAndre Ayton seeming to have figured out
Yeah.
his role.
Yep.
Let's just roll with that. It'll probably be messy, but like
Yeah.
those guys have a lot of potential. Let's just see what that looks like. That's probably my realistic
Yeah.
idea.
I think that's good. I do think it like Simon's the Scoot Sharp Simons combo. We have to see more what that looks like, and
Mm-hmm.
it is okay, especially if we're Portland fans. You don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. But even if next season is kind of like
Yeah.
we're kind of doing the same thing again, where we want a high draft pick. Let's see what Sharp and Simons looks like. Bring Scoot off the bench.
Mm-hmm.
If everyone stays healthy, now you can mix and match it a little bit. Like can you do a lineup of Scoot, Simons, Sharp, Kamara, Aiton? Can that be a thing?
Right.
Is Tamani too small at the four? Can Jabari play? I mean, I think you can take a season and mix and match a little bit more. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think that's a great hope for the next year, is that's what this season probably should have been. And
Yeah,
it's okay, because I think we tank one more year. One more season,
I
Eric,
think so too.
and then we win the title after that. So that's what
One more season and then we win the title.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. I mean, I would, in all honesty, I would enjoy the ride of being like a fringe play-in team or whatever next season. It
Yeah.
would probably mean we would have a brutal, you know, next 4 years after that of just being stuck in limbo of like almost being good.
Yeah.
But that's just the type of fan I am. I know that is stupid to enjoy that ride, but I'm like, having a shot
Yeah.
at the playoffs, it's always fun. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna complain about that. It sounds like fun, even though I know it would make way more sense
Yeah.
to go all in on the young players, and that's
Yes.
probably what they'll do anyway.
And that's probably what'll happen. But we'll take it either way. I mean, Portland, like you said, we're a bunch of sicko fans, and we kind of are like, we just like being in the playoffs sometimes. And it's
Yeah,
like we need to probably either tank or be good. It's one of the two, but we
yeah,
have had a lot of mediocrity in Portland, and sometimes it's like, who knows? Maybe we could get
hmm
lucky and there's injuries or something. But
yeah,
um so talk to us about the podcast. I want to know more. You talked about Kenny Lofton, who, is not Kenny G. So we'll talk about Kenny G's league. Do you have podcasting experience? Was this something that you want to just do off a whim? Tell us about the show.
yeah. I just started the podcast because I knew I was gonna go to a bunch of the games, and obviously I enjoy listening to all the Blazers, material that I've found so far.
Yeah.
And I was gonna go to a bunch of games, and so I was like, all right, let's just start a podcast for fun. And if it is not very fun to do, then we don't have to do it. Who cares? And if it's fun to do, then we can, do it again next year.
Cool.
So it was just kind of a excuse to watch basketball and talk about it. And I didn't see anyone chomping at the bit to create G League content. So I thought, well, that sounds like fun. I'm gonna watch the games anyway. I'll give it a go.
Oh, I love
Uh,
it.
and if it didn't end up being fun, I wouldn't have to do it again. But it has ended up being fun, and been
Great.
able to make a few episodes that I think I'm pretty proud and grateful to have made. And so I'll probably keep on doing it next season, take a little break here for the summertime because there will be absolutely nothing to talk about. And then pick it back up,
Yeah.
if anything's relevant in summer league or something.
Yeah. I would think maybe around the draft or something could be good,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
there could be some players that end up either playing for the remix or other G League teams or something like that to
hmm
come out of that. I want to just do a quick rundown, because you've had some people on this pod. Like, you're interviewing. You had mentioned George. I'm not even. How do you say his last name?
Gallinopoulos is
Gallon
I'm pretty confident, correct.
Gallinopoulos, associate head coach for the
Yeah,
remix.
really interesting guy. Just that episode is out today,
Yes.
or whenever you release this, it will
Yeah. Yeah.
already be
It'll already
released.
be out. We'll go.
Really
Everyone
good
needs to go listen.
episode. He's a super interesting guy. He's coached. He's been a head coach in the G League before. He's coached the Uganda men's national team, kind of developing that program over the last few years. Super super interesting guy. That was a fun one.
That's cool. Alex Samara, director of, am I saying it right? Samara?
So,
Samara?
so Sarama.
Sarama, sorry.
Yeah.
Director of player development.
hmm
I mean, that's cool. That's not just like somebody
Yeah.
off the street.
Yeah, he's fascinating. He's also worked all over the world. He's a British fellow, and he's worked with like the British Basketball League and basketball camps with players really of like all ages, which I thought was pretty fun to talk about in his episode because he's worked with youth, and he's just written a book that's largely about coaching. I think it's more geared towards people that might be reading it that are coaching,
Mhm.
younger amateur levels.
Cool.
Um, and he's got some pretty fascinating coaching ideas that it doesn't seem like a lot of people are implementing. Really interesting guy.
Okay. Well, that's cool. I mean, you're bringing on some good folks. You had the play-by-play announcer,
Yeah,
Gareth.
Gareth Kwok. Yeah,
Cool.
he's now in the summer he's uh working. Oh shoot, I can't remember what team, but he's doing minor league baseball.
Oh, nice.
And he did a really great job on the TV broadcast for the remix this year.
Good.
Uh, Super interesting guy that I'll kind of be interested to see if he becomes, like the next, I don't know, Jeff Van Gundy or something. You know,
And then you could say, I knew him when he was on
exactly.
the
Yeah.
remix. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
interviewed him. Well, very, very cool. I'm proud of any podcast that gets off the ground and gets going. And so for one that highlights the Blazers and the remix, clearly I'm a big fan of you, Eric. So this is great. Are you anticipating this? So the way you kind of have it labeled, like Kenny, I can't say it, Kenny's G League,
Yes.
and it's like a logo of Kenny G playing his instrument, which is
Yep.
incredible. But this isn't like remix centric. This feels like G League centric. Are you like thinking this could be G League news? Like at least
Mm.
just from your logo and from the name. That's
Yeah.
that's all I'm that's all I'm talking about right now.
Right.
It feels like you could launch this into other G League affiliate teams. Is that had you ever thought of that, or am I the first one to ever bring that up?
Sharif Abdul Rahim, president
Oh,
of the G League, give me a phone call
come on.
and we'll make it a national show.
I was
Just
I was at that game where he hit that game winner against
really,
I think it might have been Atlanta. I
yeah,
don't remember.
I
I
because
should
that was his old team.
Yes, that was his old team, and he hit that game winner, that like jumper in the corner or something. And Sharif Abdul Rahim, dude, another just throwback into Blazers lore there.
Yeah,
Yeah, those were not very good teams overall, but Sharif
they were
was,
not.
yeah, Theo
It
Ratliff, I
wasn't.
think, was on those
Theo
teams.
Ratliff was so much fun. They
Oh, so
gave
much
the
fun.
crowd like 10,000 rattles one game. That was really fun.
When he would like block the ball with two hands, like he would just
Yeah,
go up and block shots with two hands. It was like, this guy is crazy.
yeah.
Uh, oh, that's Sharif Abdul Rahim, president. Come on,
He's the
throw
president. Shoot
throw
me an
Eric.
email.
Shoot me an
Yeah,
email. I know
Kenny's G League at gmail.com. Sharif, just send that email and we'll get talking.
we'll make it happen, Sharif. Yeah, he's a big listener of Rip City Roundtable, I'm sure. So
Yeah,
maybe we'll try to get him on, and then I'll funnel him to you or something.
that's right.
Oh man, Eric, I love this dude. Okay, so the next step with the pod, you're gonna take a little break, come back potentially at the draft for sure, probably summer league. Is the hope to keep ramping this up? Did you get enough out of it for season one that you thought I'm going to put more time into this? Or like, or what do you do? What is your job? What do you do for a living?
Yeah. Well, I have done like music lessons for youth for several years now. Basically, since I finished college, I've either worked at a high school in the area or just doing private lessons.
Right.
Um, but if by some miracle the basketball stuff would ever uh make money, great. I would gladly do that because it's a lot of fun.
Cool.
And so, I'm not really sure what like growing the podcast would look like. In all honesty, I think about it and I wonder how possible it is because it's really difficult to like have engagement for minor league sports in general.
Yeah.
Um, but at the same time, I think there's totally, something you could do there that would make a little more uh uh sense day to day. Like I did episodes this season super sporadically. I had ambitions as I started of like, oh, this is gonna be once a week or something like that.
Yeah.
And it just never happened.
Yeah.
And so, that could be definitely a goal for the next season. Now, since I kind of feel like I have my bearings a little bit about it,
Yeah.
is to, have more of a consistent schedule to it that follows the season
Cool.
rather than just putting out an episode whenever I have enough content to talk about.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that's like the most tangible goal for the
Okay.
next season is just let's just come up with a schedule where we have something interesting weekly or bi-weekly or whatever.
Love it. Take the baby steps. Get there. Get
Yeah.
there. Well, you
Yeah.
have you have a great foundation and you've done the thing that's the hardest, which is just start it and just get going. And so, and you've had some great guests and you're attending the games, like, you're in it. So you're right there, Eric. Well, great, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show. I'm excited to, again, I know you're gonna take a little break, but when you start ramping back up again, I'm excited to get my remix fix, because it's hard, like, when I because I'm not in Portland right now, so I didn't even know how to watch these games, and I don't even know if I
Yeah.
still can I, or do
Yes,
I
you
where
can.
do
It is a
okay,
little bit confusing at times, and I think this season it will slightly change, or next season, because the G League, made some sort of TV deal with a new channel or whatever, or not a channel, like a smart TV app.
okay, yeah.
So they're gonna have like a new smart TV app where you can watch the G League games, and that'll be free.
Oh, cool.
But it won't be all the games, but it'll be a chunk of them.
Okay,
And then I would say, if you're local in Portland, all of the Remix home games are just over the air. You can get them there,
oh, cool.
and most of them are on YouTube for free. Uh,
Oh,
Occasionally, games will be on ESPN Plus,
oh, cool.
and so it's a little convoluted because the games can switch between either being completely free or on a subscription service
Yeah.
or on a Roku app. So it's a little confusing. But if you I'll do the same thing this next season that I did last season, which is just make a calendar that has the link to the game, and then on
Oh,
each link on each date it has a streaming
brilliant.
link. Some are free and some are paid.
Brilliant. Please make the calendar. I'll
Yeah,
reshare. That would be great. My
for
my
sure.
last Were we close to the playoffs? What was
We
the
were very close.
We were.
It
Okay.
was super close. So like there was like a five-way tie at the end of the season for sixth place in the G League. It's the top six teams that make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Um and so if they had won the last two games, I think they would have been in, but they
Okay.
didn't. And that's just how
Oh,
it goes. But it was really super, super tight. If they had
dang.
just pulled out a game or two there, I think they would have been in it.
Wow.
And actually today is the G League championship.
Oh, okay. When is the Rio Grande Valley, is that still a team, or did
Yep,
they move? They used to
still a
be
team.
they used to be like a powerhouse.
Really?
I don't know if they still are, but they like won every year when I
Yeah.
was more when I was working for the team and into it, but I
Oh,
don't know if
cool. Yeah, I
anyway.
think they're still fairly good, if I
Okay.
remember right. Yeah.
Cool. Well, Eric, thanks, man. Again, appreciate you coming on the show, and
Hey, thanks for asking me.
yeah, man, we'll keep up with when you got more content dropping.
Yeah, sounds good. Appreciate it.
All right, man. Have a good day.
All right, you too.
All right. Thanks for listening, all you Rip City sickos, all the Portland sickos that follow the team. Eric's words, not mine, but I did think it's very true, because we have put ourselves through a lot of pain and agony over the years, but we're Blazers fans, and that's what we do. And so it was good to hear Eric's thoughts today, describing the G League, describing the remix, talking to us about his show and how he got started. I hope you're on the same train with me, hoping that he keeps this sucker going. We need content. We need to know what's going on with the remix. And I know this first season was just him trying this out. I'm a big proponent of him ramping this up next season. Let's get weekly stuff going. Maybe interview some players. That would be interesting. More front office folks. What's the lifestyle of some of the players? I think that's the most fascinating piece that a lot of people don't know about for G League players, thinking maybe this is a lavish lifestyle or something like that. And for a lot of these guys, that is not the case. And for a lot of the people that work for the team, the coaches, front office, people like that, it is not the team, or it is not the lifestyle. I mean, and speaking from personal experience, these were unpaid internships for anybody working for D League teams back in the day, now G League. So I doubt that's changed, sadly. And so I think it's a grind, but so cool. Hope he keeps it up. And I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Rip City Roundtable podcast with Erik Peterson. Stick around. Next week is going to be a great one. We're going to get back on it as we prep, and we know the season's over. Some of us are sad, some of us are not sad, and I think this season was in the books long ago. But we're so happy that the Spurs won their last game, giving us a shot at a better draft pick. I know the draft isn't great, and that's what everybody says, but let's still try to get the best we can out of this. So there's still some talent. There's still NBA prospects. Let's not just punt on it because it's not a good draft, but enjoy this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. And just as we get ramped up for more content coming throughout the summer, we're not going to keep this train stop, baby. We're going to keep going. We'll have great guests, writers, team players, people that follow the team, coaches, everybody going to come on the Rip City Roundtable podcast because you got to get your Blazers news somewhere. So thanks for listening, and we'll see y'all next week. And remember, it is a great day to be a Blazer.